Arizona Cardinals, who were 8-9 last year with a win total of 8.5, so right around that record. As we always do, we're going to start with their losses and additions, talk about this roster turnover, get Derek's thoughts, and then we'll talk some takeaways here and really dive into this Cardinals team. So losses for this Cardinals team: Will Hernandez, free agent; Kaiser White, who was leading them in tackles the past couple years, he's now gone.
Yep.
Defensive ends for them, D linemen, guys that were contributors for the defense. That defense does kind of rotate a little bit, and then the kicker, Mack Prater, is also gone. They did bring in a changing of the guard there on that defensive line. Josh Sweat was the big free agent addition coming over from the Eagles. Calais Dalvin Tomlinson, the rookie Walter Nolen out of Ole Miss, and Mekhi Walker there. And they brought over Akeem Davis from the Bengals, and then the rookie Will Johnson. They also have, Will Johnson coming from Michigan, and talking about the Ohio State, Denzel Burke. They also have him as well. So what are we thinking here? A lot of moving pieces, mostly on the defense. What are you thinking about this Cardinals team? What are your takeaways so far with all these offseason additions and moves?
Honestly, outside of Kaiser White, like you said, he was has been their leading tackler
right
the last few seasons. I like what they've done. That's going to be a huge loss with White, but a guy in Mack Wilson that they brought in last year should kind of fill in his role. Akeem Davis Gaither should kind of fill in there. But up front, big time upgrades with Calais Campbell and Tomlinson and Walter Nolen coming in there. And then in the back end with Will Johnson, like you said, Denzel Burke. Defensively, they should be a lot better.
Yeah.
Offensively, still have a couple question marks just coming from me. I would have loved to see them bring in another wide receiver, because guys like Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch just don't really excite me. But with hopefully some development with Maserati Marv, and then obviously we still have Trey McBride there in Arizona. We'll see how that offense shapes up.
Yeah, I mean, the offense you were talking about there, it's going to look mostly the same. There's really not a lot of changes to the offense. You're going to have Kyler, James Conner. You've got Trey Benson behind him. But really, it's going to be Trey McBride and Marvin Harrison Jr. The offensive line, still a little bit shaky. The tackles look like they were set, but they both dealt with injuries last season. Both of them ended on the IR. Talking about one of those tackles in Jonah Williams, he had, they never said what the injury was, but he injured his right knee and was put on IR for his knee twice last season.
Right.
He initially missed 9 games, and then he missed the last 2 or 3 games. It was the same knee. There was no official diagnosis, but big boys, nagging knee injuries. We're talking about long-term health. The guy's been in the league a little while.
Yeah, and I can't remember exactly when they were out of playoff contention, but it may have been something to that effect. Something where he tried to come back probably a little bit sooner than he probably should have, and it was still nagging. Just decided to shut him down those last couple of weeks.
Right. I just have a little bit of pause when we're talking about repeat injuries, especially on big offensive linemen.
Sure.
We're seeing this rear its ugly head with Tristan Wirfs over in Tampa Bay, which we'll talk about in a future episode there. But, clearly it wasn't addressed. Hopefully it got addressed in the offseason. We will see. So something to keep an eye on there. Flipping over the defensive side of the ball, I agree. Their front seven, I think, without a doubt, got better with the guys they brought in, the guys they drafted. However, we're talking about this back end, and outside of Budda Baker, there's a lot of unproven there. You've got Will Johnson, Jalen Thomas, Starling Thomas, Garrett Williams, and then Denzel Burke is buried there on the depth chart as of now. But there's some opportunity because they weren't really. It's not like they were excelling, but I don't know if I'm quite sold on the secondary. They're talking about quarterback from Michigan, Will Johnson, a guy who was projected to be a top 10, top 5 guy until he ran into some injury issues. Picked up a turf toe and a hamstring injury. Are you concerned with Will Johnson heading into this 2025 NFL season?
No, not really at all. I think it's a couple of injuries that are a real burden in season, but given that he's had a few months off to really rehab and get good and strong prepped for the season, I think he should be good come training camp, through the preseason, and then week 1 as well. Going back to your point as far as the secondary, Denzel Burke, this past couple seasons, he's been kind of hot and cold at times. But going back to his freshman year, even sophomore year, he was looked at a guy that could potentially be a first-round guy as well. So it'll be interesting to see how he potentially climbs up that depth chart to help that definitely needy secondary.
Yeah, no, I right. There is potential there. I think that's kind of the key word of the secondary. Will Johnson might be one of the steals of the draft. Because I think injuries.
He's a big surprise that he slipped into the second round to begin with.
I was as well. We kind of understand injuries a little bit better than most, but turf toe, even in the worst case, 4 to 6 months, hamstring injury, even in the worst case, other than a completely torn hamstring, which we would have known, 4 to 6 week realm. I mean, we're now talking, 6+ months and things like that from when these would have occurred. So like you said, really, he should be good to go. Now, again, injury history is a predictor for future injury. Number one, predictor for injury is a previous injury to that body part.
Yep.
But for these specific injuries, they're not concerning. Maybe the fact that they've happened, back to back. But I think we talked about it in one of our earlier episodes. Likely he was trying to prep for the combine and the draft and work through an injury. Probably came back a little bit too soon. Or now he has that longer kind of break there. So, yeah, I'm not concerned. And I think, they do have a lot of potential there. It's just interesting to see. So let's see how this rubber is going to meet the road here. Let's first talk fantasy football before we get into the betting side of things. What kind of takeaways do you have from this team, obviously on the offensive side of the ball?
Yeah, a guy that I absolutely love later in the rounds is James Conner. James Conner is Mr. Consistency when it comes to just production as a whole. He's going to get the majority of the carries, and he's a touchdown machine when it comes down to it. He has really, hasn't been that guy that will pop off for 30 points or whatever very often, but he's just a steady guy that is going to get you 10, 12 points a week.
Yeah, no, we definitely like to target these guys that aren't sexy because they've been in the league for a little while, but they're just productive. I mean, 2 back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, 7 and 8 touchdowns on the ground, respectively. I really appreciate that he had a little uptick in his receiving game. I mean, he had 400 receiving yards with almost 50 receptions. That was a nice kind of boost to see there. So he's definitely capable out of the backfield. Definitely James Conner, a guy that, never really at ADP because he's not a sexy name. Again, I think he's always a little bit undervalued. And then I'll just talk about Trey McBride. I mean, look, we've talked about, if you want to go deep into the fantasy, we did our fantasy rankings. He came in as our tight end number 2 for a reason. I mean, I think him and Bowers are just in a separate tier. They have the ability to, really get into that wide receiver 1 realm.
And honestly, he could be tight end 1 if he found the end zone occasionally. I think the last couple of years, he's only found the end zone like 3 or 4 times.
Right.
If he was able to find, a touchdown every couple of weeks, he would climb up real fast.
Right. And which, that the game plan is that, just it is what it is. I know he's been tackled at the 1 a couple of times. It's kind of one of those a little bit anomalies, but we do have almost 3 years of data showing like he doesn't really get in the end zone. So, but definitely a guy, hey, one of the premium kind of Tier 1 tight ends. Absolutely. All right, let's talk about this betting space here. So we've got win total 8.5, a little bit of juice to the over. You can find it -110. It's kind of floating around. Again, we've kind of run across a couple different books here because there are some variability. So depending on how you like it, you want to play. But make playoffs anywhere from +125 to +130. Miss playoffs, more of -150, -160. To win the NFC West, anywhere from +420 to +475. To win the NFC, anywhere from +21, 21 to 1 or 28 to 1. And then the Super Bowl, very variable, 46 to 1 over the way up to 60 to 1 over on DraftKings. Are you touching anything win total futures wise for this Arizona Cardinals team?
Yeah, so win total is something that I like with the Cardinals. I'm taking the over 8.5 wins at -110 is what I got it at. So I do think that the Cardinals kind of faded down the stretch last year, and I was looking over their upcoming schedule. I think they're going to get off to a pretty hot start, to be honest with you. And I'll talk about that here in one of my other bets. But I think it's just one of those things. The defense should be better. Offense is fairly consistent, and just within the division itself, I think a couple teams may not be as strong as they were last year.
Yeah. Yeah, for this, for me, I've only got one bet on them, and it is not kind of total related. It's a little more player side. They were a tough team for me to figure out. Like, I could see them going 8-9 again. I could see them going 9-8. I could see them going 10-7. 7-10. They're kind of a middling team that the offense is going to look the same. I think I'm a little bit, what's the word? A little salty from last year, a little bit hesitant because I got burned by Kyler last season because he just looks so good some weeks. Other weeks, man, he just lays an egg. So it's a little bit hard to trust him in a full season's length. We thought it was a Cliff Kingsbury thing, but it might be a Kyler thing. But I definitely don't hate to play there. I mean, like we talked about, the defense should be better, and it really wasn't that bad of a unit last year. They should have upgraded that. And then the offense, it's just, all right, are Trey McBride and, Marvin Harrison going to be able to take a step forward and kind of be even better weapons there. So I do like that. You got anything else in this round before we move on to the player stuff?
I do. I have a few bets to throw out there. You talked about Kyler and how he kind of, led you astray down the stretch last year. I like Kyler to go over 3,500 passing yards at plus 100. The only seasons he's played in the NFL, 6 seasons now, the only 2 that he hasn't hit this is when he got injured. So he played 11 games back in 2022 towards ACL, and then came back for the second half of the season of 2023, only played 8 games.
Right.
Those years he didn't hit this. The other 4, he's hit this pretty easily. So last year he threw for 3,850 yards. Going back earlier in his season or earlier in his career, his lowest total was 3,722 in his rookie season. So I like Kyler to go over 3,500 yards, assuming that he stays healthy, obviously. But outside of him, I'm a big fan of the Cardinals to take a little bit of an extra step. I don't know if they'll make any noise, but I do think that they will get to the playoffs this year. Okay. So I took them to make the playoffs at plus 130.
Nice.
And I mentioned earlier that I think part of the reason why I'm a little higher on the Cardinals is because I think they'll get off to a hot start. So I took them to get 4 wins out of the first 5 games. So 4 wins by week 5 or after week 5 at plus 280.
Is that is that exactly 4?
Exactly 4.
Okay. Yes. All right.
So their first 5 games is at New Orleans.
Right.
I think that's a win with Tyler Shuck being a rookie quarterback.
I agree. Carolina's
coming to Arizona. I think that's a win.
Yep.
Carolina's done some good things in the offseason, but they're still building.
Right.
At Francisco's going to be a tough one.
Right.
They have Seattle coming to their building. They've had a massive turnover this past offseason. And then they have Tennessee at home.
Yeah.
With another rookie quarterback. So
they got a nice schedule. Wow.
They have a nice, first 5 weeks. The back half, obviously, will get a little bit tougher, but they have a third place schedule.
Yeah.
So I do really like their first 5 games. Obviously, San Francisco or at San Fran, we'll see how San Francisco is after a down year last year.
Yeah.
And then Seattle being in division at home, it's still an in-division game coming back from San Francisco. But I think those are the 2 that I was kind of wishy-washy, and I said, yep, I think they'll get one of them.
Yeah. No, yeah, you're right. I mean, their schedule really opens up well. They even, after Tennessee comes to town, they go to Indianapolis for who knows what that call team is going to be. Is going to be, one Arn Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones. So that's a really nice start to the schedule. So I like that play there. 4 wins in the first 5 weeks. Nice juicy price of plus 280 there. My one play for this team is Marvin Harrison Jr. over 6.5 receiving touchdowns.
Yeah.
Even money over on ESPN Bet. plus 100 there over on ESPN Bet. Most of the other books have that as a little bit of juice there. So definitely want to snag that before that number moves. When we talk about the classic, Trey McBride, where are your touchdowns going? It's to Marvin Harrison Jr. I was surprised. I mean, he had 8 touchdowns as a rookie. He led the team in receiving touchdowns, and he tied James Conner to lead the team in rushing and receiving touchdowns. So he's a big body wide receiver. His separation maybe not his thing. He's not going to burn you, but he can go up and get the ball, and he can make contested catches. I mean, that's what he did at Ohio State, and that's what he did in the league as a rookie. No reason for him to be, get worse there. Obviously, Kyler trusts him to be able to throw him those balls. I mean, again, 8 in his rookie year, even if McBride takes a couple, whatever, like when we talk about the passing game, it's Maserati Marv and Trey McBride. That's really it. Michael Wilson or, Dortch, whatever, but I don't think they're going to really be taking away touchdowns. So I think this number is a bit low for Marvin Harrison. Again, we only have the 1 year sample size. But he did it in college, and he just showed, in the NFL, the dude can make contested catches and find the end zone. So, give me Marvin Harrison Jr. over 6.5 receiving touchdowns at even money there.
I like it.
Thank you for watching the IDP Plus YouTube network. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Be sure to tap the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload new content.